The Nile doesn't do Nubia any favors. 6 sets of rapids break the river south of Egypt, and for thousands of years they decide who gets to invade and who gets to be left alone. Egypt gets the calm stretch. Nubia gets the rapids and turns them into a natural fortress instead of complaining about the real estate. In between, the river squeezes out a green ribbon barely a few miles wide, desert pressing in from both sides like it's trying to remind everyone who's really in charge here. People fish it, farm it, and haul gold out of the hills beside it for thousands of years before anyone here thinks to write anything down. Eventually, on a bend in that ribbon of green, somebody stops moving around and builds a city instead. Nobody in Egypt builds like this. No blueprint borrowed, no pharaoh's model copied. Just mud brick, stacked centuries deep, rising out of nothing but ambition and enough labor to move a small mountain by hand. Kerma buries its kings the way it does everything else, bigger than anyone expects. Hundreds of attendants sometimes go into the ground with him, which says a lot about how retirement plans worked around here. Egypt eventually decides this neighbor has gotten too rich, too armed, and too close, and spends generations building forts just to keep an eye on it. It doesn't work forever. Around 1500 BCE, Thutmose I burns Kerma to the ground, and Nubia spends the next 5 centuries as somebody else's province. Egyptian gods, Egyptian writing, Egyptian rules, all of it stapled on top of a culture that never fully disappears underneath. When Egyptian power finally cracks, that culture comes right back up, this time centered on a mountain the locals believe is Amun's actual home address, and a kingdom about to stop asking Egypt for permission. Piye doesn't come to loot Egypt. He comes to fix it. His army crosses the Nile city by city, and every ruler who refuses to kneel gets a siege instead of a conversation. One by one, they kneel anyway. By the time the last gate opens, Piye holds a throne he never actually asked for, and an Egypt that answers to Napata now, not the other way around. Piye is proud enough of the win to carve the whole campaign into stone at Jebel Barkal, one of the longest brag sheets to survive from the ancient Nile. His brother Shabaka takes the throne next and quietly does something stranger. He saves a crumbling papyrus of Egyptian religious text by copying it onto rock, accidentally preserving ideas historians are still reading today. Then Assyria starts paying attention. Taharqa doesn't inherit a shrinking kingdom. He inherits the whole thing at its biggest, Napata to the Mediterranean. And for a while, it looks unstoppable. He spends some of that power on Karnak, adding columns so big they're still among the largest things standing there. First, he wins. 3 years later, he doesn't. And an empire that once ran from the Nile to the Mediterranean starts losing ground. It will never fully get back. Assyrian troops loot Thebes itself, Egypt's holiest city, stripped bare. Taharqa's successor, Tutankhamun, grabs it back for a few months out of pure stubbornness before Assyria pushes him out for good. After that, the kings of Kush stop trying to hold Egypt and go home. Kicked out of Egypt, the kings build smaller pyramids instead, steeper, narrower, and eventually far more numerous than anything Egypt ever managed to stack up. Life around Napata keeps moving whether or not Egypt is watching. Giraffes and oryx crossing plains that don't care who's in charge. Political life keeps moving too. Royal queen mothers, the Kandakes, start holding formal power here in a way Egypt never quite allows its women. Egypt takes one more shot at Napata anyway, sacking it under Psamtik II just to prove old grudges die slowly. Over the next 2 centuries, the whole court simply drifts south, out of easy reach, until Meroë becomes the new capital, wetter, richer, and sitting on something Napata never had: iron ore. Blacksmiths there start working furnaces at a scale nothing else in the region can match. Scribes invent their own alphabet, breaking free of Egyptian hieroglyphs completely. Nobody has fully cracked it since. Temple walls fill up with elephants and giraffes instead of the usual Egyptian menagerie, and more pyramids eventually go up here than Egypt ever built. Further south, the land finally does Kush a favor. Real rain, real pasture, cattle grazing where the rest of the kingdom only gets sand. Then Rome finishes conquering Egypt, arrives at the border, and assumes the desert kingdom to the south will simply agree to behave. Rome assumes wrong. Amanirenas doesn't send envoys. She sends soldiers to the border and gives an empire that just swallowed Egypt whole, its first real surprise in years. Her troops hit the Roman town of Syene and drag home a bronze statue of Augustus as a trophy. Rome answers by burning Napata to the ground. Instead of surrendering, Amanirenas sits down with Augustus himself and negotiates, and walks away with terms good enough that Rome never tries this again. The border holds for generations after that. Kush stays the one power Rome fought and never actually conquered. A king and a Kandake rule side by side here, and spend it on the biggest building spree Meroë has ever seen. Temples and pyramids going up everywhere at once. One of those temples goes to Apedemak, a lion-headed war god who belongs entirely to Kush. Egypt never worshipped anything like him. Caravans keep moving ivory, gold, and ebony north to Rome and east toward India, and camels start replacing cattle as the animal that actually survives these routes. But 4 centuries of dominance eventually run out of road. Trade shifts, resources thin, and a rising power called Aksum starts eyeing Meroë's weakened grip on the Nile. Around 350 CE, King Ezana marches in and finds a kingdom already fading on its own. The royal line simply stops in the record after that. No dramatic final battle, just an ending nobody bothered to write down. For over 1,000 years, nobody maintains any of it. The temples empty out, the pyramids sit alone, and the desert does what deserts do. It simply waits. The script on those walls can still be read out loud today. Every sound, every letter. but nobody has fully cracked what most of it actually says. It took modern archaeologists most of a century just to piece the story back together. The Nile, meanwhile, never stopped running.